Hello, everyone, and welcome to the info session for our Emerging Directors Pitch Competition this year. I'm Alice Wang, and I'm the Manager of Programming at Regent Park Film Festival, and I'm joined today by Andrew and Lucius from CBC, and I'll let you two introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. We can't see you, but hopefully you're seeing us. I am managing editor of digital in the unscripted department, and that specifically means I oversee CBC Arts, CBC Life, Lucius's video team, and another group called Creator Network, and excited to be part of the program this year. Lucius.
Hi. Yeah, I thought I was going to see everyone as well. So I'll just imagine all your faces. So I am Lucius, the senior producer of unscripted video here at the CBC. I work with Arts, Life, and Q. And, really excited to work with some emerging talent here, at the Regent Park Film Festival.
Yeah, so before we really dive in, just wanted to kind of talk through some of the overview of the pitch competition as things change year to year. So this year, the winner, will only have one winner this year, will win a development deal with CBC plus $1,000 to put towards their production or for your artist fees. We also want to acknowledge that this info session right now is strictly just for this pitch competition and does not necessarily apply for when it comes to pitching any other projects to CBC. That would be a different process. And if you do want to look and read over any of the information that we covered here today, it's on our website at rpff.ca/EDP 2023. And submissions are open right now until August 20th. So please fill out our Google form. That is also linked on our website. And a bit more about the eligibility requirements. So applicants must be a Canadian citizen or have permanent resident status. And this pitch competition also is for emerging directors, hence the name Emerging Directors Pitch Competition. Emerging in this case is defined as someone who has directed or produced no more than 2 films for festival and or broadcast. If you have any specific questions about that, you can also reach out to us directly. And in addition, permanent CBC employees aren't eligible to apply. And as for the project parameters this year, we'll only have one category in the unscripted side. So we're looking for an unscripted short film. The maximum length is 10 minutes, so no features. Projects with existing equity investment and or distribution commitments are ineligible. And in addition, if you are selected to be a finalist, you can't be pitching the same project at another festival. This means that you will have to withdraw your project from other festivals or competitions while you're participating in this one. For the application to be considered, you must submit a single PDF with the following information: your logline, your pitch synopsis, your artist statement, and links to your past completed works or portfolio. Now, like I mentioned, all of this information is on the website, so don't feel the need to be typing away on your notes or anything like that. And now I'll pass it to Andrew and Lucius, who will talk a bit more about in terms of what they're looking for specifically.
Yeah. So, our team, as we work with CBC Arts, we want to tell stories that are really authentic, to the community from that perspective, that are centering on, sort of heroes of the community, artists, within the community that are leading radical, inspiring, and ambitious projects for social change. So this intersection of where sort of art and activism, art and social change sort of intersect. And that, we want to open up, that subject matter, those themes to your interpretation of, what are the most pressing issues that you see in your community, and who are the artists who are leading that change, and how would you like to respond to that in a short form digital piece. And so, as Al said, we're not looking for features. We're looking for sort of 10 minutes, or less, pieces that will live sort of in the digital platforms, of the CBC, and in social, be really easily shareable, and And yeah, I think that's about it. Is there anything you want to add, Andrew?
I mean, there's I think a bunch more that we can definitely get into in detail, but that's definitely the overall picture. Um, uh, and if you go back and you look through what we published on the CBCR's YouTube channel over the years, I think you can find a lot of pieces that fit in that lane of art and social change. Um, Alice, the next section, is that something that you want to do as sort of like a Q&A format where you ask us questions and we go through it?
Yeah, sure, we could do it like that. Or if you already have something like ready in a specific format, you could also just shoot it.
Sure. So Alice very helpfully prepared a whole bunch of questions that we imagine you probably have about the process and about how we work. So Lucius and I are going to kind of go through some of these things, and I'll start. So one area of questions that Alice had put down here was sort of questions around the audience and the kind of storytelling we're favoring here. And overall, we are the public broadcaster, so our audience is, of course, all Canadians. That is like the biggest, broadest possible answer, but it is part of our mandate to serve Canadians. More specifically, we do have like a sort of a special focus on audiences of the 30 to 49 demographic, specific focus on diverse audiences, audiences who maybe haven't necessarily seen their stories told on the public broadcaster or on other commercial broadcasters in Canada. We are sort of open in terms of platform. Obviously, Lucius mentioned the length of around 4 to 10 minutes is what we're looking for. So the CBCR's YouTube channel is certainly one possible place where these might land. There's a question here about like tips to make a pitch stand out on paper. And I have my perspective on this, and actually I'd be interested in Lucius's too. But like in general, my perspective is you don't need a fancy 20-page deck to sell a short film. I myself will take a short, clear one-pager with like a producible idea over a fancy deck with cool graphics any day. We want to know who your character is. We want to know what is the social problem that they are facing, what is the challenge they are trying to overcome, and then we want to know, well, what story are you trying to tell with that person? Remember, this is like a really short doc format, so make sure that your story can be told in the space provided. You're probably not going to be following a character for a year if you only have, 10 minutes of time. We also want to know how you intend to shoot this. Is this, a fly on the wall verite doc? Are you going to have highly staged interviews? There's going to be a lot of archival footage with video. What will we actually see on screen? Those are super crucial things when putting together your pitch on paper. Lucius, anything you'd add to that sort of things?
Yeah, I mean, I would also add, where do your passions sort of intersect with the project? And in thinking about your pitch, as Andrew said, it doesn't need to be glossy. It just needs to be right. It just needs to drill down into, what is the most singular focus within the piece. Because I think that, it's very easy to think of a topic and be overwhelmed by that topic and try and tell all sides of that, within this 10-minute piece. But there is a reason why, obviously shorts have a very different approach and format than features, And so I think that, thinking about this as not necessarily the trailer to the feature, but what is, a tangible short idea that can be accomplished in that period of time that would be really satisfying for, for the audience to kind of take in. What can you say in that period? I think is really important. And I would also add just access. Like if you have particular access to, an artist, a community, that might be, that might make your project more feasible in terms of being able to pull it off, then add that, mention that. That's a great way to make your project stand out.
We're definitely not asking for you, by the way, to already have shot something. But if you happen to have any tape, make sure you link to that. If that's useful for us to understand where you're coming from.
To jump off of kind of what Lucius was talking about, feasibility, I know some folks have been asking whether they need to include a budget for the application. Obviously, we don't ask for that in terms of the application materials, but is that a helpful thing for you to look at and consider, or is that something at this stage that you're not considering right now?
Look, if you already have done that work and you have an understanding of the budget, I would always like to see it. However, I think for the purposes of the pitch competition, I don't think we can be asking for that because it's really a single PDF with the idea in it. If you are the successful pitch and you go through development, then you would be creating a budget. That's actually that's one of the questions here. What does a development deal look like? What is development? And I will say development can mean a bunch of different things in the industry. Essentially, for something like this, it is funding from CBC to work on the idea further. So for a project of this size, we could be looking at paper development. So, flesh out the story beats, do some research on your main characters. Maybe you're conducting pre-interviews. Maybe you're doing some demo footage, which goes then beyond paper development to actual tape. And then create a budget for what your actual final production is like. So the real budgeting stuff happens in the development process.
And I know obviously it's dependent on each project, and things will be different, but how long generally would the development process be?
Oh, that's such a depends question. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and heck, maybe your project has for your development, you actually do want to shoot some demo footage, and there's an event that's coming up in 6 months, and that's when you're going to be able to shoot it. Then you're going to have a longer development window, so we can make sure that you have the opportunity to shoot that demo footage at that event. But it could be as short as 2 to 3 months. It could be longer depending on if it needs to be.
And in general, do you also work directly with directors, or do you expect directors to partner up with producers and finding their team, or is that something that that you will be able to provide support on during their development process as well?
So for a project like this, we are engaging whoever is pitching it as an independent producer. So if you are a director who produces, great. If you're a director who does not produce, then yes, you're probably going to have to work with someone to take on those roles.
That makes sense. And yeah, I think a lot of people are a bit stressed about what a pitch document might look like. Do you happen to have any templates or samples that you can share, or even just breaking down kind of some of the successful pitch documents that you've seen before, how it's either been laid out or anything like that?
I don't know if I have any samples we can share. Lucius?
I don't know I don't know if we're allowed to share them.
Yeah, we'd have to get permission from
the people who created them.
Yeah. But I don't think we have that on hand. No, sorry.
Yeah, but in terms of what one looks like, I mean, I would say like a highly well-crafted pitch decks do everything that Andrew talked about. They talk about your main character, in one slide. They, talk about the why of your film, in one slide. It will give us a sense of the environment, like the visual treatment or style. If there are, if you've shot work like this before, that you want to link to, and or if you have visual references from other films that really inspire you, for this, things like that, are all helpful to include. And then they're normally not that long. They're, it's maybe 10 pages or less, and usually in sort of like a PDF format, with, which is slides or one page per question.
And I would add, I think earlier on Alice went through like the bullet points of what you have to have in your pitch deck. Like that is a good format to follow. Logline, pitch, synopsis, artist statement, and then some of the more concrete details that we've been talking about, just about that. But if you have all those things, there's not one format that will guarantee success. It really is about your idea, and you're convincing us of your ability to execute it. It's a great idea, and do we think that you've thought it through and you've got the active skills to
I don't know if it's maybe my connection, but I think it's cutting out a little bit at the tail end.
On your end?
Yeah.
Oh no. Perhaps I will leave it. Apologies.
And he just gave the entire secret to how to.
Yeah, I know. The secret was there, and the Wi-Fi was like, nope, people don't need to hear this.
Don't need to hear this. Not important.
No. But I know that both of you kind of had some links that you wanted to share. I mean, yeah, we won't watch it here, but maybe talk a bit more about kind of. Andrew, I was just saying, I know both of you kind of had some links to share and some videos. We won't watch it here live, but maybe give a bit more context about kind of why you chose them and sort of how they're good examples of what people should be doing.
Sure. The first link I was going to share is not something anyone can watch, but it's a link to our independent producers website. And drop it. Oh, drop it. Yes. Drop the private chat. So maybe we can put out with that. But the link to the CBC independent producers website, and specifically the art subgenre there, and you can get just a little bit of some of the things we worked on in the past, some of what we're looking for CBC art overall, not specific to the larger sense. That was the first. Then, and the second one is a link to a past short piece that is in this space, this art in space. So I'm going to drop the link now again, private chat. Way of getting it now. But it is a short doc shot at the very big one. And Lucius, do you want to speak to this one a bit more?
Yeah. So Andrew was cutting out a little bit there. I'm not sure if you caught that piece, but the first link was to the independent producers document, and then the second link is to a piece that we did on Fairy Creek. And when we talk about pitch, the access, the subject, and sort of this intersection, with social justice. So the filmmaker, was someone who was, kind of actively part of the Fairy Creek protests, that had been going on for months. And, this particular piece was shot at a moment when, there had been sort of a standing protest for probably about 9 months at that point. And they had gotten an injunction from the police that the police were going to come in a couple of days and clear out all the protesters, out of this area. And, there were, within that camp, they had set up an artist residence. and they had two artists who were in it at the time, and both of them were painters who were going out into the forest to paint these trees, as this form of sort of documenting this sort of changing environment, and these lost heroes in that area. And so they got everything together to film this, and film this doc for CBC Arts. And this tells this specific story of this artist in residency in here at the time while this injunction was happening. But they are also using it as a piece of a larger documentary that they're making around the Fairy Creek protests, as a feature film. So when I say think about your idea and how it would work as a short, this is how they took one very specific part of that protest and that idea, and how it intersected with arts, and made it into this 10-minute piece. And then they're working on a larger piece that will incorporate more stories and more perspectives, and more characters in that piece.
Mhm. And yeah, I guess it also ties a bit back to the feasibility question, where I think both you and Andrew were talking about how like the story itself should be contained in a short format. So yeah, is that something that you also look for, where when you notice a pitch is perhaps a bit too grand in scale, that it might not fit best for what you're looking for currently?
Yes. Does that happen? Yes. Sorry, Lucius.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good question, and I would just say, it depends on how you want to define grand and scale, because I think that you can do something really grand in a short, and I think that is sort of the place where I think that's the place where people do falter, because there are incredible short films. There's incredible short docs. And I think that it's really a matter of restraint and understanding what your story is, and exactly how to tell that story in a short period of time. Because in a short, you don't have the luxury to tell everything, and that works really well actually for the audience in terms of what information can people infer. How can we tell something that happened over the course of 10 days in 30 seconds? Like, what filmmaking techniques can I use to catch people up on context of this issue, without that being the entire 10-minute piece. It's like you got to think through all of these sort of problems that come up along the way, and come up with creative solutions as to how you solve it within a short.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I would add is, like, just because it's short doesn't mean you can't still have a beginning, middle, and end of your story. Like the basics of storytelling that you might be thinking of for a longer form piece still apply to a 10-minute video. It really, a lot of it's the same. You just have to be extremely careful in choosing the moments that you're going to use to tell your beginning, middle, and end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the links that both Lucius and Andrew shared, they'll be down in the description. I feel like a YouTube vlogger, like influencer.
Like and subscribe, please.
Like
yes.
and subscribe. Links in the description. And yeah, feel free to check them out. And if you have any other questions to follow up, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll pass them along. And yeah, I believe some folks were asking about kind of that like to film eligibility for the emerging criteria. Say you made a short film when you were in as a student, and it was quite successful in the festival run. Does that kind of count? I know there's always like some gray areas when it comes to this, but yeah, like how would you say you define films made for festival or broadcast?
I think we have to go with what's in the description. So if it was successful in the festival run, I think that would count as one of the two. But look, if you're trying to develop an idea and you have a question, I would send the question through to the folks at RPFF, and then we can discuss if there's an edge case that we need to look into.
Yeah, definitely. If you have any specific questions about your eligibility, feel free to shoot us an email, and we can kind of talk more about that. And yeah, I think that's it for the questions that I've received. Is there anything else, Lucius and Andrew, that you wanted to speak to that we haven't covered yet?
No, just the last thing I would personally say is like I am super excited to see what comes in. I know that there are so many great stories that can be told from the perspective of art and social change in the communities that hopefully are the constituents of this festival. And I hope we get to tell something really cool at CBC out of this.
Yeah, and I would just say, as Allison mentioned, like if you have questions about your eligibility, connect. We want to see a lot of pitches. We want to see a lot of people, taking part in this. And, so we're not here to be, gatekeepers around it. We're here to be inclusive and open those doors. Be ambitious, be creative. And, hopefully we see you on the other side.
Yeah, and I guess I'll speak a bit about kind of some closing details. So submissions will be shortlisted, and folks who are successful will be contacted around the beginning of September, and everyone will be notified about whether they have been shortlisted or not. And those who have been shortlisted, the finalists will attend 2 training sessions, one with CBC. That timing is to be determined. However, if you are selected as a finalist, you must commit to attending these training sessions, and we'll try to work around everyone's timing to make that work. In addition, the pitch itself will be live in person during our festival, taking place this year, November 23rd to 26th. So yeah, you'll be pitching in front of a live audience, and Lucius and Andrew will be there. It sounds really stressful, but it's also really exciting to be in a space with that kind of energy. And we'll be there, of course, to support you along the way as well. If you have any anxieties or questions, do let us know. And in addition, the pitch jury itself is made up of 2 CBC execs, Lucius and Andrew themselves. And to reiterate again, the winner will win a development deal with CBC plus $1,000 to put towards production. And yeah, we're really excited to read your applications. Don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. And in the meantime, good luck writing your applications. I know it takes a lot of time and effort to do so. So we really appreciate you putting in the work. And we are really excited to see what you come up with.
Thank you. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Andrew and Lucius.